I'm outside in my backyard. If you hear dogs or see them running around, it's the way it is. What can I tell you? I wanted to talk about this article that Rod Dreher linked to by the man who was then the Archbishop of San Francisco. It's called The Religious Vision of Flannery O'Connor, and it's from America Magazine from many years back. The Archbishop quotes Flannery, some of her letters to her friends. So I'm just going to go over some of these quotes. Here's one. Flannery writes, "I know what you mean about being repulsed by the church when you have only the mechanical Jansenist Catholic to judge it by. By that, I think she means people who go about their faith as if by rote and who are constantly trying to quench the spirit and simply become sort of robots, Catholic robots or Christian robots. I think that the reason such Catholics are so repulsive is that they don't really have faith, but a kind of false certainty. They operate by the slide rule. And the church for them is not the body of Christ, but the poor man's insurance system. It's never hard for them to believe because actually they never think about it. Faith has to take in all the other possibilities it can. Faith should do that, but not for many of these people. Now, this is a straw man argument in a sense. In other words, there may or may not be people like this, but of course there are, and we know there are. And we can be like this. It's not just them. In other words, if the faith for us becomes a routine mechanized thing and gives us a false certainty, that's when we're not doing it right. Last month, we went on a trip to the East Coast. We talked to two very different Catholics on this trip. One, a super liberal Catholic who believes that there is no such thing as good or evil, and who believes that, hey, the only thing you should do as a Christian is not judge. Once you do that, you're fine, and you can do whatever you want. The other was a fundamentalist Protestant who believed in 6 24-hour days of creation, who believes that in American exceptionalism, who believes in all the stuff that about Israel that some of the fundamentalist Protestants are into. Both of these Christians at opposite ends of the spectrum, one a super liberal, one a super conservative, they were both convinced that they are going to get to heaven, absolutely certain of their salvation, which as Catholics we believe or should believe is a terrible sin, the sin of presumption. Well, anyone who's filled with that kind of self-assurance or complacency or smugness, anyone like that is going to turn other people off. Let's see if there's other stuff we can see in this article. See, this is why Flannery is so cool, because she gets it. One of the effects of modern liberal Protestantism has been gradually to turn religion into poetry and therapy, to make truth vaguer and vaguer and more relative, to banish intellectual distinctions, to depend upon feeling instead of thought, gradually to come to believe that God has no power, that he cannot communicate with us, cannot reveal himself to us, indeed has not done so, and that religion is our own sweet invention. If you don't think this is how most Christians think, especially devout Christians, Catholics and Protestants both, you're fooling yourself. Slowly we begin to think it's about our feelings. It's not about our minds. We overlook the fact that God gave us minds so that we can perceive the distinctions in his creation and in the reality he has made, that we can use our prudence in order to discern how to love, that we can appreciate art, including things like Flannery O'Connor's stories. And we begin to believe that really this is all just our own invention, which is what the atheists think, which is what I thought when I was an atheist. And that really this is just a nice little balloon that we have inflated with our own particular brand of hot air, and we enjoy being in this bubble. And that's what this is all about. If we're living our faith like that, not only are we bad Christians, and we're all bad Christians to a certain extent, if we're living our faith like that, we are very bad witnesses to anyone who might be the least bit interested in the reality that we are trying to understand and worship. All right, let's just finish this up. Those darn dogs. Okay, here we go. Well, he ends with the famous story about Flannery and the Eucharist at the dinner party. I'm not going to read it because Bishop Barron just made a video about that. It's the most famous story about Flannery O'Connor. So I will put up a link to Bishop Barron's video. You can watch that and enjoy it. Meanwhile, as you can see, a little taste of Flannery's letters. We just did A Good Man is Hard to Find. If you haven't watched that, watch that video. I did a little lecture on it and did my best. Comment on this, comment on other things. We will also have live meetings down the road. Hope you enjoy the online book club, and I hope it helps you in your own attempt to live the faith more sincerely and more realistically.